We're sitting down today with Shanice Steenholdt. We want to just say that we're very, very happy to have you. After watching you, frankly, in my opinion, one of the most dominant women players that I've seen, for sure. And I want to just kind of get away from doing that. One of the most dominant players that I've seen, not necessarily even qualifying it as women or men or what have you.
Sure.
It was a pleasure to see you play, and it's just as equally as a pleasure to see you be here, have you here with us. Let me say, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Kind of getting adjusted to this weather that decided to come in. It's a little chilly today, but I'm good. You know, just kind of having some downtime after the season and enjoying just more time with my kids and things like that. So other than that, I'm good.
We're going to talk a lot about the season and your kids, by the way. Well, first, we want to start with you and just ask you, how did you get into basketball? Well, you know, tell us about that, your journey going from the start to up to now.
Okay, so I grew up in a small town called Roswell, New Mexico. I lived there for 18 years of my life. My family lives there, and basketball was not the first sport that I actually played. I was a soccer kid. Yep. I think everyone kind of throws their littles into soccer from the beginning. And so I was that goalie, that long, lanky kid that just got tossed in the goalie's box. And so that was my sport for a while. You know, my mom tells me the stories about how I got into basketball, and it was basically I went to her and asked her to sign me up. There were all these flyers going around at school, and I said, Mom, sign me up. I want to play. So it was like a local YMCA. We called it the Yucca in New Mexico. And so my mom signed me up, not having a clue that I knew anything about basketball. And I was about 8 years old at the time. And she said when I went out there and played my first game, she saw something in me. I was scoring, I could dribble, I could just do everything. And she asked me after the game, where did you learn to play? And I told her I was playing every day at school. Every day at school I was playing. I was working on my shot and dribbling and all these things at school, and it just translated, you know. So from there, that's really where the love for the game grew. I was really just a tomboy growing up. I wanted to play with the boys all the time. My stepdad did not appreciate that. Initially, it was from the standpoint of, no, you're not playing with the boys, but then he understood it was all because I wanted to be rough and tough like them, and I wanted to compete.
And how old were you?
Around that time, around that time when I started, I was 8. So I started at the age of 8, really just playing in the local YMCA league. And from there, it kind of just transpired into me going into middle school. I played at Sierra Middle School, still in Roswell, and we won some district championships there. I played for a really great coach that just pushed us to be the best we could be, and that really just continued my love for the game.
So that was your foundation, and you mentioned that coach.
Yes.
And you're coaching now, we'll come to that. But you already have commented that particular coach played a big role in your development. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more in terms of how that was
so his name was Coach Graham, and all I can remember from that time was him pushing us out of that comfort zone. He always pushed us every day in practice to get better. He pushed us in games to get better, and so I just remember at times feeling uncomfortable in the sense of like I could never get content. I was never allowed to just be okay with being mediocre. And so that really pushed me as a player, and I mean, heck, even in the classroom as a student, just always trying to find ways to improve and to get better. So I was blessed to have him as my coach, and then when I went into high school, I mean, I had an even better coach in high school, and that's not something that I don't think all players have the opportunity of saying. They had multiple coaches that impacted them at a high level, and so Coach Carpenter was his name in high school, and he's in my high school, and he's still coaching to this day. Very successful coach. Probably the first coach that I played for that really like ripped into me and taught me like it's okay to have moments when you are down and you're not playing your best, but it's how you respond in those moments. And so he really just I would say like really molded me into the player that I developed into going into college and then overseas after that. He just really pushed me, and I'm super grateful to him. I still talk to him and his wife to this day, and have a good relationship with them. So yeah, he really instilled a lot in me, and I'd say I've taken a lot of his coaching strategies and techniques into my coaching now as well.
So you've had Coach Graham and Coach Carpenter.
Yes.
From middle school through high school. Mm-hmm. And then let's go on to when you went to HBU, now Houston Christian University.
Yep. So there were some things that took place as far as injuries that I started to deal with. My junior year, going into my junior year, I had just started playing AAU. AAU was not a huge thing where I lived. We were a small town. Like, I had never heard of it up until my junior year. Didn't know a thing about it until a coach reached out to me about it. So I was excited, getting ready to play, and I tore my ACL my senior summer of my junior year. And so I can remember at that time I was receiving a lot of letters from colleges and people that were interested in me. And when I tore my ACL, a lot of those stopped. A lot of those letters stopped, the contacts stopped, things like that. And so up until my senior year, I had a small D2 school looking at me, Adams State in Colorado. I had U of H looking at me, and I had Montana State looking at me, and then HBU came in a little bit later looking at me. And being the first kid from my family to go to school to play college basketball, my parents didn't really understand like how the dynamics of everything worked. And so we're just thinking like someone's going to call you one day and offer you a scholarship, and that's just how it works. And we're not knowing like you got to let these colleges know you're interested too. And so I'm receiving these letters and things like that, and I would say I could have done a better job of responding to them and letting them know, like, yes, I'm interested in you as well. Let's see what you guys have to offer. And so with that being said, Montana State had backed out after not really hearing back from me. I went on a visit to to see Adams State University in Colorado. It was a way smaller town than what I had came from, and I was like, that is not for me. I'm trying to get into a bigger city. And so U of H ended up backing out at the end because of my injury, and so I was really just left with HBU. And I'm like, heck, it's still in Houston, the campus.
Good.
Yeah, the campus was
exactly.
The campus was beautiful. The coaching staff was great. I was excited to just be a part of something new. The coach was bringing in, and I kid you not, 9 freshmen to this team. And so she was cleaning house and coming in and bringing us in to start fresh. And so I was excited to be a part of that. So I played at HBU from now HCU. I played there from 2011 to 2015. And during that time, I had a lot of ups and downs. 2 more ACL injuries after.
2 more?
Yes.
3
so
total?
a total of 3 ACL tears.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's funny because oddly enough, they were all 3 years apart. So I tore it my junior year in high school, my freshman year in college, and then my senior year.
So walk that through for us. Elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Was it left leg first?
So started with the left first, yep, and then the right, and then the right again. So the second time that I tore the right, they said it was probably because it wasn't done right the first time.
Okay.
And there's all these different things that they use, and so the left one I used my own hamstring to repair it, and that's been the one that seems to have held up the best. The other 2 I used my patella tendons. So
yeah.
Just lots of ups and downs. I mean, it's a roller coaster when you're enduring injuries that take, 7 months or so to get back to it. So it's definitely a mental thing that you got to learn to overcome. And luckily, I had the support of my family and my coaches that were able to get me through that.
I gotta say, we have a lot of respect for you before knowing that.
Yeah.
But if it could go any higher, the respect just went out the roof, because anybody who's ever went through any type of injury, 1 ACL is tough.
Right.
To go through 3, really, I think speaks to your commitment to the game, and that's a ton of mental toughness.
Right.
So everything that we see, and I comment on this. Everyone know I'm really big on making it happen.
Right.
You know, we see this no excuses.
Yep.
The foundation, the league, or what have you, and people are familiar with that. But I mean, I'm really, really, really impressed. And I'm not saying this because we're doing the interview, which we're grateful to have you.
Yeah.
That just says a ton.
Yeah.
That you were willing, because so many times you just say okay, and that's their story.
Right.
That's their story ends there.
It stops. Yeah.
So no, that wasn't the case for you. So I wanted to interject that, but please pick back up. So when you came back after those injuries.
Yeah. So, you know, junior year, the biggest thing that I learned through each of those injuries was you have to take rehab seriously.
Okay.
You know, if you want to come back either the same or a little bit better, like you have to be willing to put in the work for 7 months or more. Some people takes longer, some people a year, you know, and I was fortunate enough to be able to bounce back each time within 6 to 7 months. Mm-hmm. And so I rehabbed during that time. And then, you know, by my senior year, I'm thinking it's over for me by that point because I'm concluding my college career, and then boom, I tear my ACL. And my dreams were always to play professionally, was to go overseas, play in the WNBA. And so I'm thinking at that point, I'm a senior, I've torn my ACL, what team is going to want me at this point? And I had, you know, lots of people telling me, Shanice, this is the third time, like how many more times can you put yourself through this? And there was just still that drive in me. There was something in me that said, this is not it for you. And so I rehabbed really hard. And luckily I had a team and a really good agent at the time that found me a job overseas, and a team that was willing to accept me despite like I hadn't played in months, and they didn't know what I was going to look like coming out, and they only had film on what I looked like before. And so they trusted me, and I ended up with my first overseas job in Portugal. So it was a lot of work, a lot of mental toughness, and, you know, a lot of support. I leaned on my family a lot during that time, and so I'm just super grateful.
So this is a little bit, so you got me going here. I want you to just continue. Now you're in Portugal playing.
Yeah.
So give us that experience, because a lot of times, but at our audience, they know about the experience of what the perceived experience of playing overseas is, particularly for men.
Right.
From a woman's point of view, give us, you know, go down there, particularly going through everything you had to go through.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, like, I feel like people, especially with social media being a big thing these days, they highlight all the perks of being overseas and all these things that make you think, wow, it's just this perfect lifestyle. And although it is to the standpoint that you get to do what you love every day and you're getting paid to do this thing that has brought you so much joy your whole life, there are things that you have to endure along the way that nobody tells you about, you know? Yes. And so when I was in Portugal, I played for a team in Torres Novas, Portugal, and I was there with one other American at the time. They ended up eventually adding another. We had a great season, you know, but there were some things along the way that I was just not willing to put up with. As far as living conditions, I mean, it's already a culture shock as is when you go from American lifestyle to European lifestyle. And so there are things that you have to adjust to that you go without that you don't have to here, which is already a shock, right? And so living there, you know, I had to, not to bash or to talk badly about the team or anything, but there were just living situations that I didn't see fit. And I didn't think that was something that I wanted to continue to deal with. Mm-hmm. And so I was there for 7 months before I made the decision to leave the team due to my living conditions. Luckily, I had a really great agent at the time, and he found me another gig after that right away. I went from Portugal, came home for maybe a week, and then I went to Australia. Mm-hmm. And yes, Australia was the best experience for me overseas. I would go back in a heartbeat and live there if I could. I mean, the culture, the people, The league I played for, I mean, everyone was just welcoming and loving, and I stayed with the host mom while I was there, and she was literally like my mother. She treated me like family. She cooked for me. She cleaned after me. I mean, this lady, her name is Trish, she is still so near and dear to my heart. She took such good care of me while I was there. And I was just welcomed with open arms. So to come from a situation where things aren't so good, you know, and they're a little rocky, to then get welcomed like, hey, you're home. I really thrived there in that environment, and I had a great season. I mean, I can remember having a game where I had 28 and 29. I mean, it was a good environment to be a part of, and I was allowed to just be me and to play and to have fun. And so I really, really enjoyed my time there. I was there for about 6 months before then getting my next job. So this is like continuous, right? Like, especially when you're playing like in Australia and places like that, their seasons are a little bit different than ours. So I joke with everyone and say I was in the winter season for about a year straight, because I came from the US and it was winter, and then I went to Portugal and it was winter there, and then it was and then Australia's seasons are flipped from ours, so their summertime is our winter and vice versa. So I went into their summertime, their winter time, and so it was nonstop winter for me, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was a great experience. So going from there, I would came home for about 2 weeks, and then I had my first really big gig in Romania. And so I was playing in the top league there against some of the best athletes that I had played against competitive-wise in Romania. And I mean, I loved it. I loved it. The fans were the best fans I have played in front of. Every night they were committed to coming to watch us play. I mean, the stands were packed every single night. They would wait after games hours for us to get treatment and to you know, be ready to go for the night and ask for autographs. I mean, they were diehard fans, the best fans I played in front of, the best environment. And so I was there for about 8 months, and once again, like, things were great. You know, you're dealing with all the changes that come with being in a new country and learning a new language, or trying to at least pick up on a few things here and there. New foods, new teammates, all these new things. And so all of that was fantastic. But then you get down to the bottom line of I was there to do a job. And when you do a job, you expect to get paid for that job. And so, you know, there was some corruption that was going on in their government while I was there, and that's how our team was funded. And so I went 3 months without pay while being there. And 3 months was 3 months too long for me, considering that was my livelihood. That was, I had things back home I needed to pay for, and you know, there was all these things. And so
that's the other side that you were referring to, all these things.
Yes,
that's very common. That's not uncommon.
Right. And so this is just one of the things that, you know, you don't really know about until you're in that environment. And, you know, it wasn't any fault of the team. I don't blame any of them. But there were just a lot of corrupt things going on in their government at the time. And so we kind of suffered for that. So because of that, you know, I had to think about myself and my livelihood, and I left. After 8 months, I wanted to finish, but I just couldn't. It just financially, I needed to be in a place where I was getting paid to do my job. And so after that, I went straight from Romania on a flight and went to Luxembourg and played in Luxembourg. They needed somebody to come in for 4 games. They were trying to get back to their top level, and 4 games, I came in, played with them for a month, and wow, Luxembourg was an experience. I mean, the people were fun, the environment was fun. I can just remember having such a great time there, and I wish I would have had longer there than just the month.
4 games.
But 4 games, and we won all 4. So they were satisfied. We got back, you know, where we needed to be as far as the league goes, and yeah, it was great. It was a good time. So, you know, I come home after Luxembourg, and I start playing for a women's league here in Houston. I don't even remember what the name was at the time, but I joking around in practice, you know how it goes sometimes, you know, everyone's like, you can't touch the rim, come on, you can't, and I'm like, yes I can, you know, so I had to prove myself. And so doing that, I jumped up and grabbed the rim. Okay, I touched the rim, yes, grabbed it, whatever. But when I came down, something in my back just shifted. Something wasn't right. And I was hunched over, and my teammates are kind of joking with me, like, what are you doing, old lady? Like, stand up. And I'm like, I couldn't stand up all the way. And so I'm thinking I just tweaked something. I'm going to the chiropractor, a couple times a week, trying to get them to adjust me. Something wasn't right. And so I went and got an MRI done, and I herniated 2 discs in my lower back. So at this point, the doctor is telling me, hey, you need to sit down somewhere. It's time to relax. It's time to call it quits. And I'm thinking like, well, can't you just give me a shot of something? And, there's still that like piece of me that's like, come on, like, what do we do? And so I was too young to have a back surgery, according to my surgeon. But I was young enough to be able to rehab and get these muscles all around my back in line and get things back strong again. So that was the route we took. And so at the time I was working at a physical therapy clinic, and so I was able to, get hands-on treatment there with them, really get some exercises down to continue to do on my own. And so I rehabbed myself, and with the help of my physical therapist at the clinic I was at, and really just got myself back in mode to be able to play again. But not necessarily play again to go back overseas, but just play locally in leagues. And but I knew that after that injury, that would probably be my last time going back overseas. I did have some teams that were like, hey, come back to Romania. We'll give you shots every week in your back, whatever you need. Yeah. And I just couldn't live with myself knowing that I was a possible liability for a team that's bringing me in to do a job. And I didn't know if I'd be able to live up to the standards that they wanted or needed. And so I chose not to go back overseas at that point. And, obviously I wish I wasn't joking around and jacking around in practice, and wish, I would have taken it a little more serious, but I ultimately think that everything ends up how it's supposed to be, and, the world and everything else comes around full circle. So it ended up where I was supposed to be. And, that was like overseas for me. I enjoyed it. I loved it, every moment of it. I can't say that I regret any of it.
So I was going to ask you, what's the most difficult thing that you had to overcome?
Yeah.
Like, you named several things, but out of those, which one would you say was the most difficult?
Honestly, I would say overcoming the ACL injury for the 3rd time. The first time, I was young, I was in high school, junior. I thought, oh, my knee just popped, I'm good. I tried to hop back out the next game. It was summer league, and I went to turn left or right or whatever, and my knee just shifted and gave out completely. So I knew at that moment something ain't right. That first one, no big deal. The second one, the moment I did it, I knew it. I said, oh, that's the ACL, so okay, I'm even now. I've done one on each side. It is what it is. I've done this before. So that 3rd time, though, it really, really took a toll on me. I guess because you just ask yourself, like, I'm doing all the things right. I'm lifting weights every day. I was in the best shape. I'd say the best shape of my life going into my senior year. I was running 2 miles a day, lifting weights, doing all of these things to get myself where I needed to be. And, I felt like I was doing everything right. And then to still end up injured, it's like, man, you kind of beat yourself up a little bit. So that 3rd time for me, I'd say had to have been the toughest thing that I've had to overcome, for sure.
So when exactly did they select you for the Hall of Honor?
So that was actually in 2020, COVID year. Yeah, so, COVID was a crazy time in itself, like trying to maneuver life and figure out, like, can we go outside? What are these mask things we have to wear? It was just a crazy time, but I feel like that really came around in a moment when we needed some uplifting and some things to make you feel good. And so HBU reached out to me and let me know that they wanted to honor me in the Hall of Honor. And I was so grateful for that. That HBU was like a foundational point for me to be able to go overseas and have the opportunity to play even after injuries and things like that. So being able to be a part of that Hall of Honor is special, and I'm super appreciative of that.
Would you say that was your one? So So we asked you what was the toughest, or what would you say was your best moment of your career?
Honestly, I'd have to say when I played at HBU, we had a game against Houston Tillotson, and I had a 40-point game. And that was, I mean, that game still gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, you know, because that set the record at the school for the most points scored by a women's player. And it just was a special moment in the environment. Everyone was kind of chanting my name, you know, so it was just fun to be a part of. And so that was just an accomplishment that I was very, very proud of. Mm-hmm.
Well, we were happy to have you, especially considering you could still easily be playing abroad, right?
Yeah.
Even within the WNBA. One thing I know about a mindset is someone with your mindset, there are literally no limitations.
Right.
And now that you're coaching,
Yeah.
you know, we talked a little bit offline about the difficulties of it, something like that. Could you elaborate on how your experiences as a player ties into your coaching, as well as, you know, the tutelage and the knowledge that you had transferred to you by your two coaches, Coach Graham and Coach Carpenter, right?
Yep, exactly.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, so I think ultimately, like, everything I've endured has got me ready for this moment, right? Like, all the injuries, all the battles with coaches and being pushed to my limits, and all those things have molded me into who I am now. And those same standards that I was held to are the same ones that I hold my kids to nowadays. And it's tough, and they know that everything that I expect of them comes from a place of good. There's no malice, there's no, you know, I don't claim to know everything as a coach. I mean, this is year one for me at the high school level, and so I'm learning as they're learning. And in particular, like, my kids this year have been so receptive to every demand and expectation I have set for them. And they know that Coach S, they call me Coach S, has these expectations up here. And when we don't meet them, she's going to let us know, you know. And I think that's a big thing that I have learned from the player standpoint of, it's okay to be called out. You need people to call you out, even in your workplace. It's never, and that's one of the biggest things I push to my kids, it is never okay to just be content. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. We all need moments of discomfort and to feel what it's like to not feel set in where you're at. I feel like that really helps people to grow and to elevate, is when they don't feel comfortable and they have to do things that, you know, may be out of their comfort zone. And so I try to push my kids out of that comfort zone. And for me, it starts in practice. And I know that's so cliche and every coach says it, but it is 100% so true. And my kids know every day we will go hard in practice. Practice is where it should be hard. In the game, it should be easy. In the game, if you're going hard in practice every day, the game shouldn't feel like anything. You should be prepared for anything that you see or face in the game. And so that's the biggest thing I push to my kids is, don't ever get too comfortable, because there's always somebody that's working either for your spot or working to, you know, take that top spot in the district or whatever it may be. So I think it's super important to just never be too content and never to just settle in where you're at.
Like this bug over here bothering me. I don't know. You just not know I'm a killer.
It's making you uncomfortable, see?
Yeah, you gotta don't listen to Shanice.
Make him
bug.
uncomfortable.
You gonna die. What prompted the pivot? How you end up coaching? Let's go back a little bit for me in that transition, because I'm sure, even though you say you came to grips with, okay, after you injured your back, that this is probably it.
Yeah.
You know, but walk us through that. When did you decide you wanted to coach? Had you thought about it while you were playing, or
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I never thought I would be coaching. Honestly, I think every athlete goes through that moment of you think that like you're going to be playing forever, and it's like you don't think about life after basketball. And I feel like that's something that a lot of athletes struggle with is like basketball gave me my identity. This is who I am. What do I do after this? And so I had to think hard and long on when was the last time I was truly happy outside of playing basketball, right? And so I thought immediately back to when I would coach and run clinics in Australia with the kids. And I would see the smiles on their faces, and I would see like how happy they were to be doing this thing that brought me so much joy. And so I knew at that moment I needed to do something with kids. I needed to surround myself around the youth somehow, not knowing what avenue I would take with that, but I knew I needed to do something around kids. And so I actually started off working for a nonprofit called Communities in Schools. And so basically I was a site coordinator on a particular campus, and I would work with all the at-risk kids. So all the kids that, you know, weren't doing well in the classroom, had attendance issues, behavior issues, all the kids that people try to sweep under the rug, those were the ones that I was honing in and would have on my caseload and really work with them on trying to overcome some of those barriers that were placed in front of them. And so I really found a lot of joy in that, but I felt like there was more I could be doing, you know, impacting these kids on a different level. And so I eventually started working at a charter school where I was teaching PE. That was my like element there. I was happy to be moving around, playing with the kids, you know, getting them active. And so I worked at a charter school for a couple years, and that was really like my first dose of coaching as well. I coached, it was the high school there at the charter school, but it was just starting up. So I had 9th and 10th graders that I was coaching at the varsity level, and we were playing against teams that were established. So teams that had juniors and seniors, and we were 9th and 10th graders. And when I kid you not, our first game, we lost 55-2. My kids dribbled the basketball from our side in front of our bench and dribbled to the corner and picked their dribble up every single time, and it got stripped and they went and scored on them. It was like we were rewind, go back. I mean, it was like on repeat, the same thing. And so I then questioned myself, like, do I really need to be doing this? Am I doing these kids any justice right now? And I think that was like the turning point for me, as to I got to grow too. Like, I can't expect these kids to just know everything off the bat. I got to find ways to get better and to be able to coach them and teach them. And so, you know, I was staying up trying to watch film and watch all these other coaches and how they coached and find drills to do in practice and all these things to make my kids better. And so by the end of our season, we had a rough one. Those kids, you know, you talk about like morale and trying to like keep their spirits lifted. Like that was more of my job than anything, because I had to keep asking these kids to come back to get beat, you know. And so they did, and I built strong relationships with them. And that's probably the thing that really honed in and kept them in, was the relationships that we had. And so by the end, we had 3 teams in our little region, and we were the region champs by the end of that. So those kids, they really bought in, and, you know, it all the whoopings that we took in the beginning really just paid off in the end, you know.
And you had validation, absolutely, that you could flat out coach.
Yes.
You could. This is something that you could be pretty good at.
Exactly. And so I then got in with the district that I'm with now, Clear Creek ISD, and I was at Seabrook Intermediate. So I went from that school, which, I mean, 9th and 10th grade, you're not really coaching at the high school level. It didn't feel like, but kind of, yes. So then I went to Intermediate, and I was the head coach of the 8th grade girls team there. And, you know, it was a really a place where I kind of just learned like how to coach, right? Like, I was trying things and seeing what worked, and really working on like building relationship with the kids and the parents, and trying to just like find my footing and my foundation in coaching. And so I was there for 2 years. During my time there, I got pregnant with my youngest son. And so with the demands that coaching put on me, I had to decide, do I want to stay doing this to where I know like I may not be able to see my kids all the time. I'm about to have a newborn. Like, can I stay fully invested in coaching and also the mom thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually, like, with that in mind, I had already been going back to school to get my master's. And so I was getting my master's at the time in school counseling because, you know, I had that background in working with at-risk kids. And so that really opened me up to that. So when I graduated with my degree, I thought, well, what better of a time? I'm about to have a newborn. Like, why not take a step away from coaching, you know, get some counseling under my belt, see if this is an avenue that I want to continue writing the course of, and we'll see how it goes. So I actually left the district for a year. So last year I was counseling at an intermediate campus. And although it was very rewarding, I could see shifts in kids' behavior and all these issues that they're going with at home. It just opened my eyes up to the fact that these kids these days are not getting what they need at home. Yeah. Mental health is a huge thing. And I felt like I was giving so much of myself to my kids at school that I didn't have enough to give to my own kids at home. And so I felt drained emotionally by the end of every day, and then to go home and to have to turn on the switch for your own kids and you barely had enough juice to give them, it wasn't fair.
And I can totally relate to that. I think having done, you know, mentorship myself, and then having worked with at-risk kids, I can totally relate. Yeah. And even from a standpoint of coaching. Yeah. Because coaching encompasses a lot of those same issues. Yes. And the tools that you use to kind of help kids overcome those issues. People think it's just X's and O's. Yeah. And for some coaches, that is, who are not concerned. Right. But if you are, you know, I say for the better coaches, you're really coaching and mentoring the whole person. Right. You know, not just the player. Exactly. And and when you're doing that, and I had to learn this the hard way, you're like, I'm so tired. Huh. Like, I got a ton of energy. Right. Hyper. I'm all natural. I don't even drink Red Bull. I'm just that guy. Yeah. You know, but it is draining because what you're doing, you're giving of yourself so much, and when you're doing it, it's not like you're calculating or rationing it out. No, you ain't on lean. You're on go mode. Yeah. Now I couldn't relate at that particular time. Going back, how it was like now you're coming home with your kids, but I can only imagine specifically being a mom. And I want you to kind of talk about, because and I think you've already started, the challenges of coaching. Yeah. And being a mom or two, you know, and because I know how it is with my wife, and I'm a good dad. Yeah. But I ain't their mom. Yeah. I'm just being straight up. Y'all hear me? I mean, straight up. You know what I'm saying? I'm being honest with you. Yeah. I'm just keeping it like this. I'm keeping it real. Yeah. So I am not, and my hat goes off to any mother. Mothers, all of them not the same now. Yeah. Right. And so, for those who really are taking the time and has the awareness to pour into their kids, and you're doing that, you really are like a mother, like you mentioned before. You're a mother to not just your two kids, your mother. All my babies. That's right. So please jump in and elaborate on that for us, please. Yeah, so there's definitely a huge balance, right, between coaching, momming, doing all these things to ensure that your kids that you're coaching feel supported and like you're invested in them, but also your kids at home too. And so I don't know that there's any type of formula or magic like juju or something that makes somebody do it. You just do it. Like, and I feel like as a mom in particular, no offense dads, but moms don't have like the luxury just not to do it. Like, we have to be there. We have to show up. And I feel the same, like, not pressure, I don't think that's the right word, but in a sense, like, I feel that same pressure when it comes to coaching. Like, I got to show up and be ready every night, and be ready to coach my kids and put them in positions to be successful. And it's the same for my kids at home. Like, I have to show up for them every day, no matter if I'm sick or not feeling well. Like, they don't know that. They know that mama is going to show up for me. Like, that's what my kids are going to know at the end of the day. And so
Like I said, I don't think there's any particular formula that goes into it, but what Nike said, just do it. Like, you just got to do it, you know? And at the end of the day, like, it's so rewarding to be able to, like, I almost feel good about being tired, like, from coaching, and then, you know, going into, it's a different type of tired than when I was counseling. Mentally, counseling drained me. I had nothing left to give mentally. You know, I was irritable when I got home, and just, I needed like a moment, you know, and kids are like, there's no time for that moment, mommy, I need you now. And so coaching is different, maybe because I'm getting to be verbal, and I'm getting to communicate, and I'm getting all these emotions out while I'm coaching. And then so when I can come home, I can just take that deep breath and like sit in the moment a little bit with my kids, you know. So it's a different dynamic going from coaching to, going from counseling to coaching. But I'm grateful for a little bit of chaos and a little bit of hecticness every now and then, you know, like it goes back to like, you got to get uncomfortable at times. And I definitely went from a role as a counselor to where I could have just been content and been like, I'm going to sit behind my desk and impact these kids the best to my ability, you know, this way. But I wanted to be more hands-on. Like, I wanted to be making a difference in their lives in a different way. So I feel like coaching gives me that ability. And it took for me to go away for a year to realize I needed to get back to it. And so, you know, I'm a firm believer in, you end up where you're supposed to be. And in that moment and in that time, when I think back to it, I needed to walk away. I needed that year to get being a mom of two under my belt, you know, to be able to balance and be able to go home at the end of each day, knowing what time I was going home. I needed that consistency. You know, with coaching, you don't get that. It's like, you don't know what time you're going to get home. But, you know, I needed that in that time. And you know, when I got the phone call about this job, hey, there's a job coming available, like, you need to apply, I knew it was time. It was time to get back to it. And, you know, I don't think I ever thought that I'd be coaching at the high school level, but now that I'm here, I would never go back. Never go back, you know, so.
And I do understand that as well, but I don't want to make any assumptions. Please elaborate on why is that? Why, as far as the what's so nice about the high school level opposed to middle school or whatever?
I feel like with high school, you're not you are, but you're not as focused on the fundamentals, right? Like, you'd hope that most of your kids come into high school with some type of foundation. You'd hope, and I say that very loosely, that they come in with some understanding of the game, some type of foundation. Somebody has worked with them on what a right-hand layup is and what a left-hand layup is. And so you don't necessarily, like, although we do run through fundamentals every day, it is a part of like our daily practice plan, but you are able to kind of explore a little bit of more of in-depth basketball IQ and getting them to see the other side of basketball. It's not just like, the other things should be second nature by this point. Especially, I tell this to my juniors and my seniors, you shouldn't even have to think about what foot you step with for your right hand layup and your left hand layup. Like, this stuff should just be natural. You should be able to be thinking on a higher level and be thinking about, okay, she's about to cut there, where do I need to go? Or, you know, like, you should be a step ahead of everybody. And so it's fun to be able to push them to get to that point and to push them to think outside of the box a little bit. And that's why I said I wouldn't go back to the middle school level, because it is so focused on, this is some of their first times, development, their first times touching a basketball, some of them. And so you get to explore a little bit more with the older ones and really push them.
I want to just jump in and say, I absolutely agree with you 150%. When we were talking earlier offline, I said with the kids, I ain't really, and it's for that very reason. I want you to know, I don't want you to just, hey, I like playing basketball, I like dribbling the ball. I like to deal with guys who have understand that, yes, basketball is fun, but by destroying my opponent.
Absolutely.
And I know from biblically, me being a Christian, you know, they say, you know, honor, things, you know, don't do anything bad to people, whatever. But I enjoy making men doubt themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to I'm trying to not say what I would say, or whatever, but I want to make them do something different.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so generally speaking, this is not something it's definitely not beginner. It's not even intermediate.
Yeah.
So that's an advanced level of thinking here.
Yes.
And you explained that definitely better than I did, but I can definitely concur with what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I feel you on that for sure.
My high school coach was like I said, Coach Carpenter. He was big on that. His phrase that he would always tell us is, "You got to have some female dog in you." And that like stuck with me because
Did he say female dog or did he say?
He was respectful and said female dog.
Right. Oh, exactly.
Okay. And so that is like something that I take into my, into coaching nowadays too, because like you got to be the aggressor out there. You should never be questioning like, dang, I gotta do this better. I gotta hit her a little harder. Like you should be the one making people question themselves. Like you had mentioned, like people should be wondering, well, what more do I gotta do to get past this kid? And so it's instilling that like nature of I'm ready to go knock somebody in the mouth. Because she just ripped the ball out my hand. It's like, what are you going to do about it? And so it's getting these kids, once again, out of that comfort zone of like, I'm just going to coast along and be good at, I'm here, I'm happy to be here. Like, let's be happy to be here and let's take names while we're doing it. Let's kick some butt while we're doing it. So, I definitely can relate to that and thank Coach Cart for instilling a little female dog in me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we saw it. You didn't seem to have no never mind about emotions and everything when you were on the court.
Yeah.
That was you were, I want to almost say stoic.
Yeah.
When you were out there. And definitely about the business.
Absolutely.
That was very apparent when we watched you play, and it was a lot of people, we moving around a lot, but players like that stand out. They stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of transition here. You played in the NEPLW 2023, the summer of 2023.
Yes.
First of all, tell me about how you even end up in the league. We weren't familiar with you.
Yeah.
And how you ended up even end up in the league.
So I had heard about the league previously, just, seeing it on social media, seeing some of my friends kind of talk about it. I had played with like Octavia in a league previously. And so it really was just, we were trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do next? Where are we playing next? Trying to find a league with good competition that's consistent to where we know like every day, and these bugs keep getting in my way. To where we know, every night when we show up, it's going to go down, And so really just word of mouth, Octavia and a few others on my team were like, hey, we got to sign up. Let's play. And then we got Coach Simon on board and, we made this team and
he's passionate as well.
He is extremely passionate.
Shout out to Simon.
Yes, Coach Simon, he definitely is passionate and tells it like it is and doesn't sugarcoat a thing. Which I can appreciate 100%. And so that's really just how I found out about it, was word of mouth. I had seen it here and there. I had heard really good things about the league and knew like it's definitely something I wanted to be a part of.
Now, you guys did not win the championship. Can you put the camera on her, please? Y'all didn't win the championship.
You don't have to put the camera on me for that.
Well, I was wanted the people to see the reaction when I said that to you, because as a competitor, if I'm smiling now and someone says something like that, it usually goes like,
yeah, it gets serious real quick. Yeah. You just think back to it.
Why do you, tell me about y'all team, why y'all came up short, and what do you think, as ultimately some of the reasons y'all did come up short?
Yeah, I mean, there are just, with any team, like when it comes down to who's ready to go, right? Like, so this is just something I teach my kids too nowadays is it's not about records and who's the best and who has these players and who has that. Like, yes, all those things help to attribute to the team, but it's about who shows up ready to go every night. It's about who shows up ready to play. We hear about Cinderella stories and upsets and all these things that happen all the time because people show up ready to go. And I think, you know, it was just a mental thing with us. I think we kind of beat ourselves, not taking anything away from the girls that beat us, but I think we beat ourselves in that game. We were overthinking things offensively. We just weren't flowing the way we normally did. I think we had too many of us trying to do too much, you know, individually instead of playing collectively together. And so definitely a big learning moment for us and a big game for us to really learn from. And we promised that that wouldn't happen again. That's for sure. So just so you know, that's not going to happen again.
Y'all hear that? Houston Flights, Lady Houston Flights.
We coming.
So y'all hear that, Silver? Y'all hear that, Chastity, Macy?
Yeah.
No, they were back-to-back champions. They were a really good team, and
absolutely.
I have to say, you guys gave them y'all finished in first place.
Yeah.
In the regular season, so y'all were definitely formidable, and a lot of people pick y'all to win. Have you know?
Yeah.
And so no one would be surprised if y'all don't allow them to repeat.
Yeah, we gotta stop that. Yeah. We gotta get a banner in the gym with our names on it. You know, it's time to share. Send that over here a little bit.
I'm sure they got a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I know.
Got a lot to say. So it should make for a good summer.
Yeah.
You do plan on participating again, right? Playing again this
Absolutely. Summer. I do. I plan on it. I look forward to it. I wish y'all would get something like during springtime to lead into it going, you know. Yeah, might be something to think about.
It's funny you say that.
Yeah.
We're in the process of, we were just last night talking about that and earlier today talking about that. That's why I was calling you when you were getting in the shower. I was on the phone with Marco.
Yeah.
So we are... That's
in the works. I think it'd be great. I mean, you already have the foundation and have the girls and obviously a gym and all these things, and we want to hoop. We want to hoop.
Yeah, so that's one of the things you just mentioned. I'm telling you, we lining up here.
Yeah.
That was going to be a segue into my next question. Things you feel like we can do better. I always ask this. I'm open. Just trying to be great.
Yeah.
No, we're not necessarily there. If we are there, we're trying to be greater.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in feedback.
Sure.
Particularly from mindsets such as yours.
Yeah.
As to what, from your opinion, what do you think we need to be better? But you just named one thing.
Yeah.
To do better.
Yeah.
Please. Don't hold back. Not that I think you will.
Yeah, no, I don't have a whole lot to say. I think the only thing that as a team, like we had talked about, was we definitely would love to see a little bit more representation, like on social media, on the women's page. No disrespect to the person that runs the pages, you know, but the men's side, of course, I know they got a lot of professionals and NBA players and these things. There's a lot of hype around that, but I mean, we'd love to get some of that similar recognition. And so honestly, that's really the only critique or thing I could say could improve. I think everything else is fine. If I didn't, I definitely wouldn't be coming back. So I'm super, super pumped for summertime.
Last question, maybe.
Okay.
What would you tell your 10-year-old self?
Well, 10-year-old self, make sure whatever game it was that you tore ACL 1, 2, and 3, don't jump for those rebounds. Don't stop for that pull-up jumper. Don't be trying to dunk. Don't be stupid, but you know. Besides that, I would just tell 10-year-old self you're about to go through some things that, you know, may rock you a little bit, and you just got to ride the wave. Nothing is promised in life, right? You got to work for everything and just never get too comfortable. Always push yourself to get better. I almost wish I would have done that a little bit more, you know, as far as putting in extra time in the gym and really just honing in on skills that I could have developed a little bit more. I don't think I did that just because I felt like the game came so naturally to me. I wish I would have had somebody that maybe just pushed me a little bit more growing up to like really hone in and get in the gym. I think I could have been even better than what I was, you know. So 10-year-old self, definitely get in the gym, work hard, and you don't get too content.
Well, there you have it. Miss Shanice Steenholdt.
Yes.
She helped me with the pronunciation of her name. And happy to have you.
Thank you
Really,
for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to seeing you this summer.
Sounds good. I look forward to it too. Thank you for having me.
All right.